Lara had photographed enough subjects to know that the most revealing moment was never the one the subject prepared for. It was the moment before, the half-second of arrangement, when the person was still assembling the version of themselves they intended to present. In that half-second, before the composure arrived, you saw the real architecture. She had seen it in Yasmin's eyes when she crossed the main hall. Not fear exactly, something colder and more specific. The calculation of a very intelligent person who has discovered that their model of a situation was missing a variable, and is now running the numbers in real time, and does not entirely like what the numbers are saying. She said, "Not here." Yasmin tilted her head a fraction, reassessing. "Where?" "The East Wing Terrace, in 10 minutes. Lara held her gaze. "Alone. Your ministry friend stays here." A pause. Yasmin glanced at the man behind her. Something communicated, some permission asked and granted in the invisible language of long professional association. Then she looked back at Lara. 10 minutes, she said. Lara walked back through the palace to find Karim. She found him in the corridor outside the study, phone to his ear, and caught his attention with a look. He ended the call. She told him in 40 seconds. Yasmin, the main hall, the offer she hadn't heard yet, the terrace. He listened with the complete, rapid attention of a man who processes information the way other people breathe. "I'll be in the library," he said. "It shares a wall with the terrace. The window is—" "I know where the window is," she said. She had photographed through it twice. He looked at her for 1 second with an expression that contained, in compressed form, everything he had said and not said across 14 days. Then, "Be careful." "Always," she said, and went to the terrace. Yasmin arrived at exactly 10 minutes. This precision was itself information. She had used the time not to compose herself, she was already composed, but to decide something. The decision was visible in the way she sat. Not in the chair furthest from Lara, which would have been defensive, and not in the closest one, which would have been aggressive, but in the middle chair, at a right angle, the geometry of someone proposing partnership. The terrace was warm. The city spread below them with its usual indifference. Lara sat with her hands in her lap and her camera, for once, not anywhere near her, and waited. "You went to the legal team this morning," Yasmin said. Not a question. "Yes." "The EXIF data, the chain of custody." "Yes." Yasmin looked at the city. Something moved across her face. Not regret. She did not think Yasmin did regret in any conventional sense, but a kind of professional acknowledgement. The look of a chess player who has seen 3 moves ahead and confirmed that the position is what she thought it was. "The counterclaim will fail," she said. "Yes," Lara said. "It will." "And the proceeding against Nassim will proceed?" "Yes." "And Rami has been removed?" Not a question either. She already knew. Of course she knew. She had built the information architecture. She knew every channel. She knew when they went silent. "Yes," Lara said. Yasmin was quiet for a moment. Below them, the fountain in the courtyard, the guards at the gate, the ordinary machinery of the palace going about its day. "You want to know why I'm here?" Yasmin said. "I already know why you're here," Lara said. "Something in the plan broke and you need an exit. You've decided I'm the most useful person to build it with because I'm the variable you didn't fully account for. And you think that means I might be persuadable." She paused. "You're here because you're more intelligent than Nassim, and you've understood something he hasn't yet." Yasmin looked at her then, a full, direct look, the performance entirely gone, which was somehow more unsettling than the performance. The face underneath was still extraordinary. It was also exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "What have I understood?" she said quietly. "That he's going to lose," Lara said. "And that when he does, the people around him lose too, unless they've moved first." The silence that followed had a different quality from all the previous silences of this conversation. It was the silence of something true landing in a space where truth had been carefully excluded, the way cold air enters a heated room and changes the temperature without asking permission. Yasmin looked at the city. Her hands, folded in her lap, were very still. The stillness of a woman who has spent a very long time being precisely controlled and is, in this moment, using that control to hold something together that wants to come apart. "The offer," Lara said. "Tell me the 3 parts." Yasmin turned to look at her with an expression that was, briefly and entirely despite itself, something like respect. "You already know there are 3 parts." "You're precise," Lara said. "You always work in 3s. The photographs to the delegates, the note, the timing of your departure, all structured in 3 movements. It's how you think." A pause. Then, "The first part is information. There are 2 additional witnesses to the meeting between Nassim and Hassan that your photograph documents. I know who they are and where they are. That information would strengthen the proceeding considerably." She held Lara's gaze. "The second part is documentation. I have a record of every communication between Nassim's office and Hassan's network over 14 months. Encrypted, backed up outside Zafaran, accessible only to me." Another pause. "I compiled it as insurance for exactly this scenario." "And the third part?" Lara asked, though she had already begun to understand it. Yasmin was quiet for a moment that was longer than the others. When she spoke again, her voice had changed register entirely. Not the diplomat's precision, not the operator's calculation. Something more stripped than either. "The third part," she said, "is that I want you to tell Karim that I am sorry." She looked at the city. "Not for the photographs, not for the preceding tactics, for the first engagement, for leaving." A pause that contained something she was carrying with considerable effort. "I left because I was afraid of what it meant to be with a man I couldn't manage. I have spent the 6 years since building arrangements I could manage and discovering that managed arrangements are not the same as..." She stopped. "I am not asking for anything back. I understand what I am looking at." She glanced at Lara with an expression so briefly and completely unguarded that it arrived like a frame Lara hadn't been ready for. "I am asking you to tell him that the person who left was afraid, not indifferent. Because I think it matters to him. And because..." Another stop. "Because it is true. And your friend Nadia informs me you have a particular commitment to true things." Lara sat with all 3 parts of it. The witnesses, the documentation, the apology that was not an instrument and not a maneuver, but simply a truth being offered to the person most likely to carry it correctly. She thought about a man who had been left by someone he loved and had spent 2 years learning to fold it away, and about what it might mean to him, not to have her back, nothing like that, but to know that the leaving had not been indifference, that he had not been wrong about what they had. that the thing he'd trusted had been real, even if the person holding it had been frightened. She thought, he deserves to know that. She thought, I am not the right person to decide whether to give it to him. She thought, yes, I am, actually, because he trusts me, and trust means carrying the things that need carrying, even when they are heavy. Why come to me? Lara asked. Why not go to him directly? Because he would receive it as a move, Yasmin said simply. From me, in this context, it could not be anything else. He is too careful, too practiced at reading my register. She paused. From you, it will arrive as what it is. And in exchange for the witnesses and the documentation, I want a formal cooperation agreement with the legal team. Immunity from prosecution for my role in the information campaign. I will testify. I will provide everything. She looked at Lara directly. I want to go to Brussels. I want my career. I want to stop being in this city and this palace and this story. A pause. I am very tired of this story. Lara looked at her for a long moment. This extraordinary, exhausting, genuinely brilliant woman who had built a machine designed to destroy something she couldn't have, and had, somewhere in the building of it, understood that destruction was not the same as getting what she wanted, and had not been able to stop anyway. Because some architectures once begun are very difficult to dismantle from the inside. I'll take it to Karim, Lara said. I can't promise the immunity. That's not mine to give. I know, but you'll advocate for it. It wasn't a question. Lara felt the precision of it, the accuracy of Yasmin's read, the way she had correctly identified not just what Lara would do, but why. Yes, she said. I'll advocate for it. Yasmin stood, smoothed her jacket, and became in the space of 2 seconds the version of herself that arrived in rooms before she did. Composed, immaculate, every surface accounted for. She was halfway to the terrace door when she paused and turned back, with the expression of someone adding a postscript they have been debating. One more thing, she said. The dress, at the reception, the amber one. A pause. It was from our emergency wardrobe. I selected the contents of that wardrobe personally 3 years ago. She looked at Lara with something that was almost, not quite, but almost, wry. I had no idea at the time that it would end up being worn by the woman who dismantled my entire plan. She paused. It suited you better than it would have suited anyone I originally had in mind. She left. Lara sat on the terrace for a moment, and then, entirely against her will and better judgment, laughed. She found Karim coming out of the library as she came off the terrace. He had heard most of it, the window, as she'd known. He looked at her with the expression she could now read completely, the one that had no name yet, but which she had decided to stop requiring a name for, because some things were more true than the words available to describe them. The witnesses, he said. The documentation. Real, she said. She has nothing left to gain from lying, and everything to gain from the cooperation agreement. She'll deliver. The immunity is worth what she's offering. The proceeding becomes unlosable with 14 months of communications. You know that." He was quiet for a moment. "And the other part?" Not a question. He had heard it through the library window. She met his gaze. "She meant it," Lara said. "I'm not asking you to do anything with it. I'm just delivering it. Because it's true, and you should have it." He looked at her for a long time. Then he looked at the wall, the ceiling, the old stone of a palace that had been holding the weight of difficult truths for 4 centuries and had developed, over that time, a certain equanimity about it. Something in his face moved, the tectonic shift, slow and irrevocable, and settled into something she hadn't seen there before. Not relief exactly, something quieter. The look of a man setting down a question he had been carrying for 6 years and discovering that the ground holds fine without it. "Thank you," he said. Simple, complete. "Don't thank me," she said. "Just call your legal team." He almost smiled, the real one. She was getting very good at catching it. The cooperation agreement was drafted by 7 that evening. Yasmin signed it at 8. By 9, Karim's legal team had the names of the 2 additional witnesses and access credentials to the encrypted communications archive. By 10, the lead attorney had called to say the word he used was unassailable. Karim relayed this to Lara in the courtyard, where she had gone to photograph the fountain in the evening light. Finally, after 14 days, getting the angle she had been trying to find since the first morning. He came and stood beside her, and she lowered the camera, and they stood in the courtyard of the palace that had been standing for 400 years, and the fountain went about its endless, indifferent work, and the city lights were coming on below, and she thought, "Tell him." She thought, "You are running out of days, and you have a policy about true things, and this is the truest thing you have." She turned to him. She said, "I need to tell you something." He turned to look at her. She said, "I'm in love with you. I'm telling you now because I've been not telling you for 4 days, and I find the not telling considerably more difficult than most things I've done in this country, including the kidnapping." She watched his face, the shift, the slow, certain movement of something arriving. "That's a high bar," he said, very quietly. "I know," she said. "It's a genuine compliment." He looked at her for a long moment in the courtyard light. This careful, precise, occasionally devastating man, and said, "I know." And then, with the unhurried certainty of someone who has made a decision and is standing in it completely, he kissed her. The fountain continued. The city lights came on. The palace held its 400-year breath, and then, apparently satisfied, let it go. Next chapter. Now what? The morning after is always the truest test. She woke up in the palace, and the sun came through the east wing shutters, and she thought, now what? The answer arrived, as it always did, through the lens.